Hi, I'm Erika, founder of My Schooling Choices, and my guest and mom today is Erika Bourne, and she is a mom of an 8-year-old motocross champ, a national motocross champ. And so, Erika, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. So, Erika, tell me your story, because one of the reasons that I'm coaching you today is because you are considering a different way of doing school for 8-year-old Kyle this fall. And can you just tell me what it's been like this past year that's made you consider non-traditional education options?
Well, he doesn't fit in and he gets bullied and he's always sad to have to go to school. And he actually was advanced compared to the other kids in his class, so he was getting bored. So it just seemed to be like one issue after another. And I homeschooled him the year before last, and it clearly is just a better fit for us. So I wanted to look at those options again for this year.
I graduated 2 kids when they were juniors in high school, and I used a smorgasbord of education options, all non-traditional. And it has really done well for us. It's been really successful. And the 3 main reasons is because, number one, we have this incredible relationship. You know, there's nothing like just being home with your kids. And so, yes, it can drive you absolutely crazy, but there's the plus side to that. It brings you closer. Number 2, we really can focus on the character, character training. And when they're gone from us, it's hard to train character. And then when they're finally home from school and you're training character, it's a madhouse because everybody's tired. There's only so many hours in the day. So when you have them home, you can really focus on that character training. And number 3, they can continue to pursue their passion. We could make learning fun for them, learning things that really matter to them, and incorporate that passion into their learning. So I'm really excited that you've considered non-traditional education options, and I know you're really committed to making this work. What are your fears and your concerns, Erika?
Mainly just making sure that I'm in compliance with the state guidelines for homeschooling.
We'll be going through how to register, so that'll be toward the end of our call. But absolutely, we will dot our I's and cross our T's and give you that peace of mind that you're looking for, that everybody is looking for when they're trying something new, and using non-traditional schooling options. Here are some of the options, Erika, and I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. So if you have any questions, let me know. There's obviously online learning, where they learn everything online. Now, you actually tried this like a year or so ago. Tell me about that.
Well, I did do the online learning, and I did it twice, both through K-12, but the first one was K-12 public school, so it didn't cost me any money. And it was all online, but he met with a teacher 2 to 3 times a day for each subject. And therefore, since it is Pennsylvania, run by the state, if we were at a race that didn't have a signal or service, then he'd be considered absent. So we were kind of in the same situation and position that we were, when he was in kindergarten. And then, so I spoke to K-12, and they transitioned me out of the public school sector into the private school. And you still have Blackboard and you still have everything online. However, now you're not meeting with the teacher, and you're 100% accountable for teaching them and responsible for that. So that one was a paid program, but again, it was still online. We still had all of the supplies that they sent to us, books and the stuff for art and music and science and all of that. And it worked very well. So I'm actually glad it worked out the way it did, because I know, working face-to-face with a teacher, it was good for him, but not if you have to be there at a certain time. Because of absences. And then I, did it on my own when we transitioned, and I realized that I could do it. So I got to try both of them.
Okay. What were the pros and cons of the online learning where, it was really rigorous the first time you tried it?
I was confused. I don't know really if I was doing it right. We ended up doing double the work. I didn't realize that when he was with the teacher, that whatever the assignments were listed as for the day, they were already covering in class, so we could just mark that off and only do the homework portion. So he would sit with the teacher for 30 minutes each class, and then I would go through and do the whole thing with him. So it was a bit redundant, but I was just confused. But once I finally spoke to somebody, I got clarification. However, it was a big time waster and made us want to kill ourselves. But other than that, it was good.
Right. And that's one of the things I'm going to suggest is if anybody is interested in online learning, there is a reason why it's free. It is very rigorous. You find yourself just on the computer, or your child is on the computer all day long. And so it kind of defeats the whole freedom and flexibility of using a non-traditional option. So I tend to think that, the online learning full-time doesn't quite work.
Right.
But part-time isn't bad. And that's basically what you did by by switching programs, right, to the private.
Right. Yep, that's correct.
That gave you a lot more freedom and flexibility. What was the con about that, if there was one?
Getting him focused and on a routine.
Okay. And you still had to be on, right? You still had to go online. And so, okay. So this is great that we talk about online learning, and you've already tasted it. And so as we continue to look at the other options, I think you're going to find something much better. Okay. Enrichment programs. Let's take a look at that. Enrichment programs could be free, and they could also be paid. So some private schools do enrichment programs as well as public schools, and the public schools that do them are free. So here's what they look like. Imagine if Kyle went to school 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and sometimes even all 5 days if he wants, which again defeats the whole purpose. But the option is there, and then you pay more, obviously, the more they go to school. But it's like he gets a little bit of school during the week. And so that's what an enrichment program is. They don't typically teach the core subjects. They typically teach things like music, art, enrichment, a second language, sometimes science, just merely because of the science labs. And so that's always fun. So would that be interesting to Kyle, you think?
Yeah, it's actually something I want to consider because working from home, I know it's going to be tough. So I'd like to bring him hopefully at least 2 to 3 days a week, even if it was only for 2 hours, to an enrichment program, kind of like he did in preschool and kindergarten. I mean, it's helpful. I'd be able to get some work done and take him to school, and he'd be able to get out of the house. So that's actually what my husband and I have discussed, is looking into an enrichment program.
I think it's an excellent win-win, because it gives him still a little bit of taste of school, standing in line. And he's been in school, so he knows the socialization aspect will be covered. He'll have his friends. He can meet them at least like 1 day a week, or like in your case, 3 days. And you're right. He can go part-time. He could go just a few hours, or he can go the entire day. So it depends on the enrichment program. But one, I think that would really help you, especially for moms who do work part-time or work from home. This would be an excellent, excellent option, because again, it takes them out of the house for a little while, and it gets them socialized with friends, and it gives them some structure, right? Just some structure. And sometimes a little bit of structure is not a bad thing. Blended learning. Let's look at that, Erika. Blended learning is half online and half in the classroom, like they actually show up in class. A lot of charter schools offer this, as well as virtual schools. But what are your thoughts on blended learning?
Same as the enrichment. It seems the same.
Mm-hmm. Blended learning is a little bit more regimented. They do cover core subjects, so it's just a little bit more regimented. Less flexibility. It's not as fun as enrichment. So remember, enrichment is music, art, all the fun activities. So just keeping that in mind. But maybe it's a good balance between, in the classroom and outside the classroom. It's just a nice balance. So just know that that's also available, is blended learning. Then there's virtual schools, and that's basically what K-12 was for you. But there are a lot of other virtual schools. The important thing about choosing a virtual school is making sure that the state of Pennsylvania considers them accredited. Okay, every virtual school will probably say, oh yes, we are accredited. And there are a lot of accreditations, okay? And the ones that you're not even gonna, I'm not even gonna mention them because you're gonna forget and it's not important. But what is important is making sure that Pennsylvania considers that virtual school accredited, okay? So when you, should you decide on a virtual school, kind of like a K-12, just check in with the Pennsylvania State Department of Education, check in with them, and just sometimes they have it online of all the accredited schools, or just give them a phone call. And just because you don't want to spend a ton of money and then Kyle getting in, you know, registered and then only to find out it wasn't accredited. So that would be horrible. Boxed curriculum. Let's look at that option. And that's basically curriculum delivered at your front door. It's paid for, but all the core subjects and then some delivered at your front door. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's what I did with K-12 when we transitioned. It was boxed, and they considered it, you know, we were on our own, but we had our curriculum that we had to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have to, you paid for that curriculum, right? Because that was the second. How does it, you know, and it was several $100s. Did you ever feel like you had to use it because you did pay for it? Was this feeling of guilt like when you didn't use it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's normal. And that's the thing about boxed curriculum. You spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and then you find out, well, oh gosh, this is so much, and well, I really don't need it all. You know, I tend to think that people tend to like the boxed curriculum kind of like a security blanket. You know, they have all the core subjects all delivered at your door, everything done for you. But then you get this guilt trip, you know, when you're not using it. And so my thing about boxed curriculum, just take it slow. Maybe one subject or two, but to, you know, to buy the whole shebang, yeah, you're going to put yourself on a guilt trip if you don't use it. And usually the first year, I don't recommend it, actually. Yeah, I want you to just be free-flowing and do the next option, which is the internet. And so have you ever gone on the internet and found some great courses and classes? And
Yeah, I have. I've looked at a lot. I don't know that I used a lot of them yet, but I've done a lot of research on them.
And the beauty of that, Erika, is they're free. So you've heard of Khan Academy.
Yes.
So there is math and science right there. You can use Khan Academy to teach Kyle math and science for free. And it's one of the largest, if not the largest, classroom, and well respected and well heard of. And yeah, and that covers your math and science right there. There are some great sites and free sites to cover things like English and reading and I mean, tons of resources out there on the internet. Just Google it. Free classes on English for my second grader. I mean, you can even use keywords like that. So that's where I would start, actually, Erika, is I want you to just get on the internet, look at those free websites that teach specifically those courses, and just go from there.